All right. What's going on, everybody? My name is Kyler Henderson. I coach fitness and health for people that are just beginning their journey or maybe have struggled for a long time. And I'm here with Zach here. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
What's up, everybody? My name is Zack Taylor. I'm a fitness and nutrition coach. And today we're going to be talking about nutrition. All right. Last week we talked about sleep. Go and check that episode out. Today it's all about food, what you put in your body. Kyler, why don't you take us in?
Okay. Well, I mean, first thing, I guess we'll get a little sciencey with it. A lot of people might ask, like, why is nutrition important? Sure, we know we're supposed to eat healthy, but like, everyone always has the burning question, why? So one of the quotes I found on the internet, I felt like really summed it up pretty quickly. Nutrition necessary for growth of new cells, repairment of worn out cells. It helps support and give energy to different metabolic processes, and it also helps produce resistance against different diseases. So to kind of like sum it down a little bit, it helps your body rest and repair. It helps your body have fuel to do that rest and repair, and then it also helps support your immune system. And that's just just a couple of things. There's many more that we'll get into.
Right, right. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of make the most basic point is that what you eat fuels your life. Not only your activity like exercise, walking, hitting the gym, whatever, everything that you do, getting up out of bed, pouring a glass of water, like whatever it is, it's going to be using the energy that you take in from the food that you eat.
Yeah, yeah, it's that's why there's the saying, you are what you eat,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, we can all enjoy a range of foods. I would be a hypocrite to say you can't have highly processed food. I love chips. I love, fast food burgers like anybody else, stuff like that. But at the same time, you gotta be able to have some type of parameter on your nutrition as a whole and make sure that you're balancing everything correctly. Um, so I know we usually go into that to like, healthy versus not healthy, and,
Mm.
and really, I feel like it sums up as quickly as this. Healthy looks like energy, sickness resistance, reduced cravings, and a better mood. And then poor food is kind of the mirror opposite of that. It produces fatigue. It gets you sick more often. It makes you crave highly processed food more often. You have brain fog because of it. So again, enjoy your cravings, enjoy this and that, but then don't be surprised whenever you're having a hangover effect, if you will, a day or two after, whenever you eat a bunch of crappy food.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about crappy food, I actually had two stats that I recorded that I just thought were insane. One in four Americans eats fast food every day.
Every
Every,
day?
every day.
What? Holy crap.
Here's another one too. This one I thought was wild. There are over 10 billion donuts consumed in the United States every year. 10 billion donuts.
That's so many.
That's just me. I don't know how much everybody else is having.
Yeah. I wish I could say I contribute to that stat, man. I have donuts like maybe a handful of times a year, but it's just because I'm not like a big donut person. It's not like I'm trying to be like, oh, I don't have that crap. Like
Yeah.
I just had a burger for lunch, just because I was too busy. But um yeah, that's crazy. I mean, every day that's pretty wild. Like I totally like I'm of the mindset of like getting like 70-30, 80-20. Like if you're really on top of it, you probably get like 80% whole foods and good stuff and then 20% ultra processed food. And if you're more normal, you get somewhere between 60 to 70 whole foods and then the other part of it is processed. And I think for the most part, especially if you're not just eating just, crap and you're still trying to get protein when you're having fast food, I think that it pair with a healthy lifestyle, you're not going to see, obesity. You're not going to see all these big things. I mean, you're still going to notice, like the brain fog, the cravings, all that stuff, but you're not going to have these massive scale tipping negative effects, I feel like.
Yeah. And like you're saying, you know, the nutrition side of things being coupled with a healthy lifestyle in general. Just to kind of kick it back to last week a little bit here when we talked about sleep. sleep being such an important part of the body's recovery. Well, yeah, that's great and all, but if you're not eating well, then you're actually hindering the amount of recovery that you're going to be able to do while you're sleeping. So the better that
Hmm.
you're fueling your body, the better you're actually setting yourself up for recovery during that sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's definitely true. It's if you eat too close to bed or if you eat too much during the day or there's a number of things, yeah, that it can directly affect your sleep. And a lot of people take that stuff for granted. I think people just kind of get used to, their achy knees or their poor sleep or their 4 hours of brain fog that they have every morning kind of thing.
Yeah. I did want to give some people some hope in terms of statistics. Okay.
Okay, I like that.
10 billion donuts is bad, and the 1 in 4 eating fast food every day is bad. But the United States has such a bad rap for obesity. The reality is that we actually rank 14th in the world in terms of the percentage of the population being obese.
Oh, wow.
I thought for sure we were top five at
Top
least.
five. That's what I would have guessed is top five at least.
Yeah, 14th.
Wow.
Moving on up.
Yeah. I mean, hey,
Hopefully.
that's better than I thought it was gonna be, honestly. I was like you said, I was right with you. I expected top five.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So there it
funny.
is. That's good news.
Yeah, that is good news. And and that I guess that could lead us into the next point, of the food quality versus the food quantity.
Mhm.
Um, so for that one, I think it's just important just getting your whole foods, making sure you're prioritizing proteins, fats, and then carbs in that order, is superior than just trying to eat a calorie mark. Um, because I know there's this whole argument of calories in versus calories out and this and that, but like kind of what we were stating earlier is that you know, especially when you're cooking at home, you really want to try to make sure that, you're not having a bunch of carbs with like, I love spaghetti, I love Alfredo, I love pasta, I love sandwiches, I love all that stuff. But the fact is that the less carbs you can have, not no carbs, because carbs give you energy, carbs help fuel a lot, but the lower carbs you can have, the better you're gonna feel. Um, And I think that, a lot of people just subconsciously consume a lot of carbs because they're easy. They're light, they're easy to consume a lot of, chips, uh, rice, even, even if you're, making a healthy meal, but then you have like 2.5 cups of rice underneath all your stuff and you eat all that too, you still had a pretty carb heavy meal. So it's kind of it takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of thoughtfulness, but I found that once you kind of just like get into the habit of it and start cooking for yourself, you kind of start figuring out how to eyeball things and kind of get a good ratio going.
Right. And I think it's important also to note that carbs shouldn't be just your like grains, your breads. You should also be aiming to get some of your carbs at least from vegetables. So you're getting your
Hmm.
necessary nutrients and mineral content from your food instead of having to rely on a multivitamin all day, you know?
Yeah, it's a good point. I always forget about the carbs and veggies, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's not like there's a lot, but it does
Yeah.
count something.
Oh, it totally does. That's just being totally transparent. I'm not a tracker. I understand how to have people track. I understand like a decent ratio. Um, and all that kind of stuff. But to me, I think the reality is that that's valuable for like 2 to 3 months or so. And then like you should learn from kind of like what I said, you should learn from that and be able to like eyeball stuff because who wants to be tracking and weighing their whole life? That's exhausting. It takes the enjoyment out of food. I hear a lot of people say you don't want to be that Tupperware guy or that, the Pyrex guy that's always carrying around an extra meal because you got to make sure you're eating something healthy opposed to what everybody else is.
Yeah.
Like it's tracking is good and it's great for I forget where I say, but like just for the knowledge of the situation, but it is not a good healthy habit long term, I think. I think it just creates more stress, you know.
Yeah. I think it should be a tool to help a person inch closer to intuitive eating.
Hmm.
As me personally, most of my time is spent eating intuitively. But in saying that, there are certain times where I have certain goals. Maybe they're aesthetic goals, maybe they're strength goals. And if I'm in that season, I'm gonna track for about 3 or 4 days usually,
Hmm.
just as an assessment of like, okay, what am I actually eating? Because, I find time and time again, even as a person who knows about these sorts of things, I will kind of get off track on my diet.
Yeah.
It'll just kind of happen in the background. And so I think that it's a good tool for every once in a while just to come back and say, like, okay, what am I actually putting in my body? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a food tracker, like tracking macros or anything. It could be just a food journal that somebody writes down.
Hmm.
It's like, this is what I'm taking in. And then you can look at that and say, like, well, how much did I have, like a bag of chips, or did I have candy? Like, what are the obvious things that stick out that I could go ahead and get rid of today?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that's a really good point. And now something like a food journal, I don't see that as negative long term because you can make it as detailed or vague as you really want to. And like kind of like what you just said, when you feel like you're kind of dialed in and you got it all figured out. Sorry, my dog wants some pets here. But when you got it all dialed in and figured out, it's better to kind of just get closer to that intuitive eating and kind of worrying more about just hitting a decent protein intake. Like that's something I always coach right from the beginning. I don't tell them to track anything at all. I just say, let's hit this protein goal. Because, naturally, with protein being satiating, you're going to eat less carbs. If you're if you're eating relatively lean meat, you're gonna have a little bit less fat and higher protein, and it's gonna naturally kind of push you in the right direction. And it's more sustainable. Like I feel like that's the hardest thing with nutrition is finding what's a sustainable thing because there's so many distractions around us. It's so easy on your commute home. You probably drive by, depending upon where if you live in a city or whatever, you probably drive by 15 to 20 food options in a matter of like 10, 15 minutes. Like it's crazy the amount of temptation is out there. Especially when you have to come home and cook something. Like it's, like because meal prepping is hard in itself. A lot of people glorify like, oh, like on my weekend I meal prep, but they don't. I mean, some people do, but people don't realize like those guys are meal prepping for like 6 hours. Like it's like an extra shift on your job. And
Yeah.
if you can do it, more power to you. But it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah, I tried the meal prepping route and hated it because the obvious day is Sunday. And for me, I'm going to go to church and I'm going to spend time with family and I'm going to relax. That's my day off. And
Hmm.
so spending, like you said, 6 hours, maybe more if it's something creative,
Yeah.
um, it's just a lot. So what I found that was more useful, and to be fair, I don't do it quite as much anymore, but ingredient prepping, uh,
Hmm.
which is just kind of like a compartmentalized version of meal prepping, where, say, the way I would do it is I would have all my meat frozen. Like, I would go to the grocery store, I'd get all the meat that I wanted that I was going to cook for the next like week or two. I'd freeze it all, and then the night before, I would put it in the fridge to thaw out for the next day. And then um, early on in the week, I would prep my other ingredients. So if that was going to be like rice or quinoa or couscous or whatever my carb was going to be, I might make a big batch of that, and then I could just heat that up and I'd cook my protein. Because to me, I'd rather have chicken fresh. I'd rather have beef fresh. As
Hmm.
age throughout the week, that was another problem with meal prepping. The meats, especially going throughout the week, there's a certain point where
Yeah.
eating rubber almost. It's just
Yep.
not anymore.
Yeah. My only hack with that was using chicken thighs and 80/20 beef and always saucing every meal, like making some kind of a homemade sauce because you're so right. I swear they have like a 3 day shelf life, especially your veggies and your meat. Like you said, the rice one, it seems like rice is good for a week or two, it feels like, Yeah. Just give it the old smell test.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I did want to talk about just some like healthy habits to
Hmm.
get people on the right track. And since we're talking about food quality and quantity. Um, Maybe people have heard about it, maybe not, but trying to stick to the edges of the grocery store. You have like your produce is on the outside of the grocery store, your meats are going to be on the outer wall of the grocery store. These are the places where you want to spend most of your time and get most of your food, which is what
Hmm.
we're talking about when we say whole, nutritious foods. Those inner aisles, the frozen stuff, typically those are going to be more processed, more refined, and you want to steer clear of that as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with the exception of frozen veggies. I utilize those all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like that's like one of the very, very, very few things you can get over there that is not highly processed. Um, but what I do like to do is I take ideas from the frozen aisle and try to make them at home.
Yeah.
Like something I like to do whenever I got time and I'm feeling up for it. I'll buy a package of tortillas, a dozen eggs, and then a package of sausage and some potatoes. And I'll just dice them up and I'll make some breakfast burritos, let them sit for an hour or two, let them fully get to room temperature, just throw them in the freezer. And they warm up way better than any frozen burrito does. And it's all health conscious ingredients that I put in there, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I've
Yeah.
actually been thinking about doing that lately because I've just been kind of in this mundane, this monotony in my breakfast routine. I'm looking to switch it up, so that might be the next move for me.
Yeah, I am really bad about I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm eating a solid three strong meals a day, and then there's some days where I struggle to eat one solid meal where I'm like, because a lot of it stems from being at work. 'Cause I'm a grocery store clerk, so I have a 15-minute break my first 2 hours, and then at my 4 hour mark, I have a 30-minute lunch, and then I have another 15-minute break at my 2 hour mark. So it's kind of hard to really sit down and enjoy a full meal, warm it up and relax in 30 minutes. So I tend to do more of like beef stick and cheese, or like there's like hard boiled eggs in a package that I'll eat, or I'll hunt, because I'll say that like that because if you don't pay attention, you don't realize a lot of the protein bars, like it'll have 10 grams of protein and it'll have like 17 grams of sugar. Like it's crazy. But there's a couple ones. There's a brand called Nugo, Nugo. I like that brand. They have some slims where it has, I think the raspberry one I had this morning had 17 grams of protein and 3 grams of sugar. Um, I'm not gonna act like it tastes like a candy bar. It doesn't. It's a little chalky getting it down. But the fact of the matter is, like I said earlier, prioritizing the protein over anything else just naturally is going to push you more to that. So, um, yeah, having those burritos are a godsend, but it also, I mean, it takes an hour and a half to make all those burritos.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. It's still meal prepping, it's still time consuming. But at the end of the day, it does end up saving you some time to be able to help you out. So,
Yeah, and I think a lot of people struggle with what you were just talking about having some sort of like nutritious lunch that's always there. And one thing that I've had my clients do that I've actually put into practice myself, me and my wife and I actually, is I make just a little extra, usually like a double portion. It doesn't end up
hmm.
much for dinner. And then me and my wife both have the same thing the next day for lunch. And it's just one extra meal. I know some people have like issues with not having enough variety. But if you can just have that meal one more time for lunch the next day, it's going to make your life so much easier. You don't have to think about it. It's cooking it one time and you get two meals out of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's a big hack. I utilize that all the time. Like when we get off the call, even though tomorrow's Thanksgiving, I don't work, but my wife does. So I know I'm gonna be here for lunchtime, and obviously everything's gonna be closed because it's Thanksgiving, so I can't go get anything. So I'm actually gonna make I think 3 or 4 chicken thighs, like a whole bag of broccoli and a whole serving of rice, and just make like 3 or 4 servings of that, and that's what I'll eat tomorrow. Um, yeah, and the best part about that is you're already cooking. So it's not like you have to like take time out of your day, and it's not like it takes longer. You just add more ingredients to what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I just wanted to add on that because you mentioned, trying to get adequate protein. Just a good dieting habit for people to have is trying to get a good protein source at every meal. It's
Hmm.
really simple, but it just makes such a difference.
It definitely does. That's definitely true. And I mean, speaking of that, so for the diet habits, I don't really, and I'm sure you necessarily don't either. I don't necessarily condone or endorse one single diet method, but like, oh, like keto is the best way or whatever. Like, I think, I think for some people, a diet for their lifestyle forever can be useful, but I think over applying it to the masses is a very bad idea. Um, I tell everybody that works with me, this is the ratio I want you to stay in. 60% protein, 25% fats, and 15% carbs. Um, that does that add up to 100? I was just adding that in my head. I think I'm off 10%. No,
60.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm not. Okay, we're good. I think. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, so that's the ratio I like to stay at because you're over half of your calories are coming from protein at that point, and then the next one in line is the fats. And you want to make sure you're getting your healthy fats. Your butter, your olive oils, and coconut oils, those kind of things. You want to try to stay away from the seed oils, stay away from the high processed oils in general. Um, Stuff like that. So there are some things that I get organic and some things that I kind of don't really care as much about. Um, I think things like that are not a one-time thing, meaning like a package of meat is probably going to be one or two meals. Um, I don't necessarily worry that much about that being organic, but when it comes to like your sauces or your salad dressings or the oil you're going to cook with, I think that's important. And it's also not as expensive because it's going to last a lot longer. Like
Yeah.
a $20 bottle of organic olive oil is going to last you. I mean, unless you're going crazy with it, that thing is going to last you like at least 3 to 4 weeks at minimum. And, you know, sure you could get a big old plastic jug of canola oil for like, you know, I honestly don't even know, probably like 15, 20 bucks. Yeah, I've never bought it to be honest, but I would assume it's probably a better deal. But um the amount of inflammation and stuff that will cause in your body for using on a regular basis um is gonna not benefit you. So and that's kind of really, wrapping it up. That's kind of really my spot on nutrition is I think, it's a lot more surface level than people make it out to be. And I think a lot of people get paralyzed by all this information out there. Every health TikTok or reel that you see is this new study says, this new study this, new study that. And I'm not saying studies don't have validity, but there have been things that have been known to work that are simple for a very long time. And it's pretty much what we just talked about here. It's eating whole foods, getting good sleep, having good fitness routine. Like there's just these little things that if you just hit them a little bit, you're gonna be all right. It's not like you have to just make your whole life about health and fitness.
Yeah, absolutely. It does not have to be confusing. People don't have to pay attention to every new study or new diet, or new fad that happens. We're the most educated that we've ever been, and we're the fattest that we've ever been.
Yep.
Learning new things about diet and nutrition doesn't necessarily equate to good practice.
Hmm.
So, kind of to what you were saying earlier about your percentages, your macro percentages. And this is kind of to the point of like everybody's going to be different. There's no mass profile of what's going to be best for any person. Me personally, I usually recommend like a 40-30-30 protein, carbs, and fats.
Hmm.
So, and that's just a matter of like the demographic that we're working with maybe is a little bit different, and that's okay. Like for anybody who's going to be more active, I'm going to recommend more carbs just because they're going to
Hmm.
need, and it's about who you are. It's about what your body agrees or disagrees with, and what your lifestyle necessitates.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a very good point. I mean that percentages that I mentioned definitely is a bit catered to me and what I have
Mhm.
found success in. And I mean, that's also why I said that I don't think anything is like a hard
Yeah.
set for anybody, like that's a great point, for people that are more active, having that low carb, especially if you're getting most of your stuff from whole food, um, 15% is going to be a little bit lower. You're going to feel fatigued after a while. You're going to probably have a hard time eating that much protein. Um, I definitely come from more of the like I was an offensive lineman in high school. I wasn't big, but I was strong. And so I'm just from the just, like you eat all your meat first. And then once your meat is gone, then I'll maybe eat some, veggies and carbs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I definitely kind of what we said before. I think that there's a lot of leniency in those numbers to be able to kind of find what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't have much more, but I did want to leave people with something here at the end, just to like stack these episodes and start putting into practice some healthy things.
Hmm.
From last week, get 7 or more hours of sleep per night. Just try to spend a little bit more time in bed. Today, the big thing that I want to put on paper is drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water.
Hmm.
Example, if you are, say, a 200-pound man or woman, drink 100 ounces of water. As you lose weight, start like the water follows the weight. So you're not
Hmm.
drinking the same amount. You're going to follow whatever weight you are and just half that.
Yeah, I really like that. As I sit here staring at my water bottle, didn't even mention water, but yeah. Uh yeah, and that's yeah. I would recommend carrying a water bottle around just because it just makes you drink more water naturally because it's there. Um if you can handle it, I actually would recommend getting a wide mouth water bottle because naturally you take a way bigger drink than if you drink one through like a straw or even like the one that I have where it's like a little spout or whatever. I'm used to just, chugging it back, but I noticed that whenever I was starting to get back into my water habit, I just would take the lid off and just that wide open and I would get like a quarter of it down each time without even thinking about it.
Yeah. And fair warning to anybody who takes the advice and gets a water bottle, you're probably going to get a few. You'll start with
Yeah,
one and then you'll end up having like 3 or 4.
that is true.
It happens every time.
Yeah. Unless you're like me and you just hate getting new things. This thing is, look at that. It's all dented up on the bottom. It's beat up. I take this thing everywhere with me. Even when I go grocery shopping, I make sure it's full to the tippy top. I drink it and I leave it in the car. And then when I get done, I drink some more. Yeah. Got to keep it around you.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, as always, I really appreciate you joining me, Zach. I'm having a lot of fun kind of getting this basic information out that I think a lot of people will benefit from having it condensed down to a digestible, amount here. So,
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I'm just glad that we're able to get this information out to the people.
oh yeah. All right, man. Well, I'll see you next week and we'll be diving into fitness. So that's going to be a fun one because I feel like we're going to have some different point of views on that. So I'm excited to see, you know, where we line up and where we're like, well, I don't know. That's always fun. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And everybody out there, stay tuned. Next week, fitness.
it's going to be great.
Oh, yeah.
All right. See you guys later.